Hello. Hi. So my name is Dr. Jawad Alzeer. Today I would like to talk about a very important topic which has to do with how to activate our creativity and leave the positive impact. Now this is a very good question, and I think this is like the goal of every normal human would like to achieve in his or her life. And the question is how. So now to understand this, the right path, how to activate this, we have to understand the human by default. So it's very clear that a human is a unique entity. And what makes a human unique, there are two things. First, human is a thinker and has the free will to choose. Now, how to utilize those two character in order to make this human creative? First, we have to think how to link or to create a compatible system between these two characters. And now to understand how to do that, we have to understand the human personality. Now, human personality is unique. And to understand how to build a constructive personality, we need to understand the basic elements which this personality is made from. Uh, to my knowledge, there are three. The first is the rationality, second is human psychology, third is the values. Now, if we can build a compatible system between those three elements, then we can build a constructive personality. But if those elements are in a conflict, then unfortunately the personality will be dispersed, and then we will not be able to build constructive and very effective personality. Now, to understand how this personality and how to link them through a compatible system, let's understand each each elements in detail. So first is rationality. Rationality has to do with how do we think? How do we judge on the reality? How do we process information when our brain receives this information? Now, obviously, we don't think the same. Some they think very superficial, others they think very deep. The rest they think very illuminating approach. So, of course, if you think very superficial, you will not be able to be creative. And to be creative, really, you have to go to the deep way of thinking. Now, deep way of thinking is essential, and this is maybe the first step which can put you on the direction of being very creative, but it is not sure that you'll be able to leave the positive um, impact. Now, to leave the positive impact, we should follow the illuminating way of thinking. And illuminating way of thinking is made from two ways. First, the deep way of thinking. Second, the logical way of thinking. Now, um, scientific way of thinking is one form of deep way of thinking, and scientific way of thinking is very important because basically it tried to discover and explore the reality of things which is around us, and usually this goes through experiment, research, measurements, and the outcome is real. And this is how we can build unique civilization. But sometimes there are certain things which we cannot understand. We can feel, but we cannot see. And even there are things where we can feel it, watch it, but we don't have the right tool to understand it. So that's why it is necessary to have an additional way of thinking beside the scientific way of thinking, which I call it logical way of thinking. Now, logical way of thinking means that we have to transfer reality through our sensation into the brain. Now, if in our brain or in our mind we have pictures about this reality, then we can judge correctly about this reality. So it's very important that those broad pictures or images about this reality to be based on certainty. So it should come from or through a certain path in order to have um, in order to have a certain outcome about our judgments on this reality. Now, the source of these images are varied. Usually it comes from first families, schools, experience, and common sense, and it also comes from set points or reference points which we adopt as lifestyle in our life. Now, we go to the second elements, which is human psychology. This is a very complex because psychologists, they made it for us very complex. So now how to make it very easy for us to understand the human psychology? It is essential to understand the quantum mechanics because there is a good combination between those two sciences. Now, according to quantum mechanics, human psychology is basically made from traits, and out of these traits actions comes out. So the actions are, or the deeds, they are a reflex of a human's traits. And human is made from all types of traits, but all those traits, they exist in superposition or in the potentiality world. Now, each trait has two faces, the positive one and the negative one. So the positive one, which is the constructive, which is the good and the healthy one, whereas the other phase, usually it is the destructive and the bad phase. So the question is how to activate the good one. Now we should also take into consideration each phase has its own value, and the question how to enrich the value of the good phase. This has to do with our free will. Now, if voluntary I decided to activate the positive or the healthy phase of this trait, then usually the positive phase will be reflected on my action. But activation, this means that I should start enriching this trait and practically uh, practicing it in my daily life and try all my best to illuminate the positive face of this trait. Now I'll give you an example. For example, in the superposition, I can be honest and dishonest. Now, if I work hard to be an honest person, my actions will be reflected based on what I voluntarily has been activated, which is basically to be an honest. But if I ignore completely activating the honest phase, the dishonest will spontaneously impose on my character. This is like that. So we have to voluntarily activate the positive faces of our traits, and if we ignore activating them, the negative phases spontaneously will be imposed on our character. So to be creative, it has to come voluntary from me, work hard on that direction, and then I will generate a creative person. But if I ignore this, I'll be a just simple lazy person or non-productive person. So now we know that creativity is possible, but has to be voluntary to activate the positive faces of those good traits. And now we know what is the best way of thinking, which basically a combination of scientific way and logical way of thinking. Now, combining this will activate our creativity. But the question is, what is the goal behind that? Is it just to achieve material value, or there's something beyond that? Now, if you want to focus on material value, you will it's very difficult to leave a positive impact. So this will drive you to another direction. But really, if you are sincere in leaving a positive value, it is a positive impact. It is essential to achieve not only to satisfy the material value, but it is essential to satisfy moral, human, and spiritual value. Now, if you satisfy four values along with your creativity, you will be able to leave the positive impact. Now, that is my understanding how to activate the creativity and leave the positive impact. If you find this is interesting, please give me your comments. If you have better idea, please inform me, because we would like to learn from each other. Thanks for your attention.